Thanks for joining us from the Ohio AgNet Voice You Know with the News You Trust studio, sponsored by the Family Forest Carbon Program, where we help family forest owners get paid to improve the health of their woods. We'll celebrate the 38th Annual Armed Forces Day with the Findlay Military Association May 15th through the 18th at the Hancock County Fairgrounds. Visit FindlayMilitaryShow.org for a full schedule of events. It's sponsored by Ohio Logistics. Well, let's get an update on soil temperatures. Here's Joel.
It's time for this week's Buckeye Temp Tracker, brought to you by B&A Genetics. Real service, real results. More information at bagenetics.com. It's our weekly check-in of soil temperatures at 4 locations around the state, both in a corn stubble field as well as bean stubble field. Let's go through the numbers. In Morrow County, the corn stubble field we've been keeping track of this spring had a temperature reading yesterday of 59 degrees Fahrenheit. On the bean stubble field, 60 degrees, both down from last week's reading, as is the general trend this week. In Perry County, the temperature down a couple of degrees, both in corn and beans. Both corn and beans, 57 degrees each. Fayette County corn stubble, 55 degrees, down from last week's 68-degree reading. And Fayette County's bean field at 58 degrees, also down from last week's 68 degrees. Mercer County warming up with a temperature of 61 degrees, up from last week, the highest so far, also 61 degrees for the bean side. As we take a look at the general trends, yes, cooler across most of the readings from last week, but this being the 6th week of the Buckeye Temp Tracker, a nice steady trend upward overall. The full numbers online at ohioagdat.com today. Thanks to B&A Genetics, I'm Joel Norwood reporting.
Thanks, Joel. Well, the war on avian influenza may soon include vaccines for birds. However, as Chad Smith tells us, there are challenges to a nationwide vaccination strategy.
USDA is investing significant resources to fight highly pathogenic avian influenza, including $100 million into research and development of a vaccine. Economist Barrett Nelson with the American Farm Bureau Federation says the ultimate goal of any vaccination against bird flu is protecting supply chains.
So when we think about these vaccines, more than 30 countries have now implemented some sort of a vaccine strategy since 2005. Historically, when countries have done this has caused some major trade issues. Importing countries have a concern. They don't want to risk an imported bird spreading the virus into the local flocks or wildlife.
Nelson says that beyond trade issues, vaccines also pose a logistical challenge.
One of the biggest limiting factors of implementing a vaccine strategy to poultry is that the only vaccines available have to be injected at least 2 to 3 times. And with our egg-laying flocks sitting at about 375 million birds, that's just not feasible with the labor that's needed.
Chad Smith, Washington.
Farmer sentiment improved in April as producers expressed more optimism about current and future conditions on their farms. The Purdue University CME Group Ag Economy Barometer rose 8 points to a reading of 148, up from 140 in March. The index of current conditions climbed 9 points to 141, while the index of future expectations increased 8 points to 152. Ag Secretary Brooke Rollins on Tuesday gave an indication of when a proposed USDA reorganization plan could be unveiled.
What might the organizational structure of the U.S. Department of Agriculture look like in the future? Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rollins, speaking with farm broadcasters at USDA headquarters Tuesday, offered a potential time when details of a reorganization plan could be announced.
We are planning to unveil the new USDA reorganization plan next week.
The Secretary added efforts to craft the plan over the past several weeks involves
analyze, figure out, and provide a solution on how to better serve the American farmer and rancher in rural communities.
One area of emphasis and priority with the reorganization, according to the Secretary, USDA personnel working as frontline staff.
Whether it is our frontliners, so FSA, etc., we have put a huge effort on ensuring that those remain fully staffed and in fact become better staffed. And then also on our firefighting front, our wildland firefighters through the Forest Service, those remain priority.
I'm Rod Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
The markets, I'll have those coming up next. Every time you use biodiesel, you're fueling more than your engine. You're investing in Ohio's farmers, reducing emissions and creating cleaner air for all of us. Did you know biodiesel adds 13% in value to every bushel of soybeans grown? That's good for farms, good for families, and good for the future. Drive with purpose. Choose biodiesel. Learn how at soyohio.org. The market's brought to you by Seed Consultants, simply better performance, online at seedconsultants.com. At the Board of Trade, July corn 4.49.5 down 6, December corn 4.40.5 down 3/4 cent. July beans 10.39 down 2, November beans 10.22 up 2 3/4, July wheat 5.34 down a penny and 3/4. At the Mercantile Exchange, June cattle $212.52 down $1.15. May hogs $91.15 down 40 cents. August feeder cattle $298.60 down 60 cents. This is the Ohio AgNet.